Greetings, uh, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I am doing okay wherever I am. It's nice outside. It's kind of a little bit chilly, but it's okay. The sun is out, so I'm outside. Anyway, I feel me parara kidogo, but excuse my uparararness. But karibuni sana. This is Kenya Revolutionary. If this is your first time here, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. I talk about Kenyan politics and world politics as it relates to Kenya. So if you like that kind of content, please take a moment and subscribe to the channel, share, comment, hit the subscribe button and like the video, of course, and make sure the bell notification on is on, okay? And if you've already subscribed, the first order of business is to do what? Like the video, okay? And make sure the notification button on is on. I feel, hey, jamani, me parara. Anyway, forget that. Let me just go to the issue. Today, I want to touch a little bit on some things that I've seen this past week. I haven't made a video for a few days, so I'm trying to make up and just talk about things that I've seen going on in Kenya. As far as Sifuna is concerned, I saw him on Fix the Nation today with the presenters there. I think one of what's his name, the guy who used to be on Standard, whatever, that talk show, whatever. I forgot his name. Hi, I'm forgetting this guy. Omugandi, I saw you the first order of business. Omugandi, I hope you're doing well, my brother. Nice seeing you. Thank you for liking the video. Yeah, that show with CT and D, and there was another one. What's that? Eric. Yes. I like Eric, actually. I think he's a good journalist, very honest. And the other lady, I forgot her name, who was there. So I want to touch on what Sifuna said, and then also touch on Gachagua. Gachagua had an interview, was it last week? Was it last week or this weekend or something like that? Friday, Saturday, Thursday, whatever. I'll just touch on what he talked about briefly. And also, Miguna was in pressure point, okay? I guess it was, X discussion where there were several speakers, but Miguna was the main speaker as he was, kind of articulating what his vision is for Kenya. As you know, he declared that he's running for president in 2027. So he was just giving us a snippet of what his candidature is all about, okay? And I will tell you some things that maybe might play to the negative side of things, but overall, I think Miguna is okay. I just think there's some questions that seems to be triggering him, that I will try to help him understand why some Kenyans are like, Miguna, where? And it's kind of my disagreement with it. Then I'll also tell me where I kind of disagree with Miguna, but overall, I think Miguna is solid. If he was to run for president, I think that's the best choice of all the bunch of charlatans that are running for presidency, okay? In Kenya, that is. So anyway, without keeping you here, I see a Muganda. Oh, yeah, thank you so much, Kampala. Kampala is a beautiful city. I would like, you know what? I've been feeling this feeling. I want to visit Kampala. I don't know why. I just feel like there's something about Kampala, very Uganda in general. I know it's a landlocked nation, but it's very rich in, rich, good soil. I would like to visit it and see the beauty of, it's a matoke and all that wonderful stuff. And also Tanzania. And also Kenya, which is home. But anyway, tuendelee. Let me talk about Sifuna. And also, I'll touch on Kalonzo because they're kind of echoing the same thing. It's all related. And as you know, everything is all related. So Sifuna was in Fix the Nation this morning, and he was, kind of explaining himself. If you notice, Sifuna and Babu Owino have been on a media run, okay? Babu Owino was on Geoff Koinange, is it The Bench or something like that, where he was explaining that him and Sifuna and the others are like moon and sun. There's no competition. It's just a completion, trying to rhyme and sound nice. But anyway, the overall thing that I'm trying to say is that it seems like Sifuna and Babu Owino, who are the kind of the protagonists on this, the ODM faction that is anti-Ruto, pro, opposition, whatever the mess is. They're on a run right now. They're trying to sustain this momentum, this newfound, hyped up euphoria that is promoted by this media that I've explained here, that there's a faction of the political class that are behind this, okay? And there's a reason why they're doing this. But there's so much to talk about. I can't even gather my thoughts and, you know, itemize or, you know, compartmentalize what I want to say. So I'll just freestyle my way out on this. So if I'm all over the place, please forgive me, because I don't write I don't write what I want to talk about. I just talk about them. But let me talk about them, since I've been talking about them, but I'm not talking about it. I've been drinking a lot of coffee. That's why I'm talking so fast. But anyway, let's get to it. So Sifuna was in Fix the Nation, and Sifuna said something that, you know, we don't have the agenda as like we don't have the agenda, but we don't have a manifesto per se, like the others have. Something that I've always talked about, which I think is a nice thing. I mean, it was clever of him to say that. Nice. He said, you know, we don't have a traditional manifesto of, you know, we'll be building bridges, we'll be building roads and doing the. And I talked about this last time in my previous videos. If you watch my videos, my past videos, I talked about this idea of, you know, there's nothing different that we've been doing when we look at all these candidates, okay? They're talking about the same thing. Oh, this is my manifesto. I will develop, you know, I'll bring tea. We'll grow more tea in Kericho. We'll build more roads in Ukambani. We'll build more hospitals in Nyanza. We'll build more business places in, you know, the same nonsense, okay? There's nothing different. If you look at the Sifuna party, okay, they're talking about debt and all this wonderful stuff. But like I said, these are things that the previous administration or candidates like Kenyatta, Uhuru, and Ruto, they all say these things, okay? Ruto came out with this wonderful manifesto. He was like, hey, there'll be affordable housing, there'll be this and that and the third. But when he came to power, there was nothing new. So I like that Sifuna probably, you know, followed my advice and went up there and said, listen, our manifesto is actually in the Constitution, okay? Okay, our manifesto is basically the Constitution. What the Constitution, the preamble of the Constitution, okay? Because remember I said, it is not much about, if you want to diagnose the problem of Kenya, if you want to accurately pinpoint what's wrong with Kenya, it's not a question of lack of leaders. Yes, we do lack leaders who are worth the name, and it is not a matter of a political, social, economic theory per se. It's not about capitalism versus socialism or communism and Trotskyism and you know, Marxism and all. It's not all about that, or an economic model. Went off. Crap. I'm back. Like I've always said, the number one problem in Kenya is not lack of or implementation of a social, economic, political theories per se. We are not suffering because we are a capitalist nation. We are not suffering or because we are a communist nation. We're not suffering because we are a socialist nation. Okay, we are not. That's not the reason why. We are suffering because we do have laws in place, a constitution that's supposed to govern us, but we are failing because no one wants to implement the constitution, nor do we want to obey the laws that we have in place that addresses all these issues that we keep on mwakanenda mwakarudi complaining about. That's what I mean. That's the problem with Kenya. You know, we keep on regurgitating the same things. Every year we talk about the corruption. We shall fight corruption. We shall build more roads. We shall I'll bring the debt down. The Kenya economy in Mbaya. It's the same nonsense. But I'm sorry, there's a document in place which not only is a social contract by the people, for the people, that addresses all these problems. The problem is these people who we entrust, donate this power to administratively execute and obey this wonderful plan and laws which are in the Constitution, they violate it. grossly violate it. Then we find ourselves back there. We start saying, "Oh, we lack leaders." You understand it? Okay. Everybody is breaking. All these people that were interested with the public office have let us down, including Sifuna. So to get to Sifuna, he kind of said, okay, we are going to follow the preamble of the Constitution, which is, to respect God and our. I'm just freestyling for what the preamble says. You can go read it. I think it says something to do with, having an equitable society of, that respects human rights, social justice and all that good stuff. Okay, which is fine. That's a good, that's a good news. But here's the thing, Sifuna. This is why I want to really kind of talk to Sifuna. Sifuna, listen to me. Sifuna, take a minute. Babu Owino and all the rest of you on the opposition, and even if you're in the government, or all you political class, everybody who is in a public office. Listen to me, Sifuna. That sounds very good. And it's the right way to go. I like that. But the problem is, Sifuna, you've been part of this, gang of leaders who have let Kenyans down. Okay? I'll repeat that again. I'll say it again for the people at the back. Sifuna, you've been part and parcel of this irende ya watu ambao wamekataa to do what? To bring change by implementing the Constitution. You had so many opportunities and chances, even as the Secretary General of the ODM, number one, being a member of ODM already disqualified you from being any person who should be taken seriously as far as, changing the country is concerned, or a revolutionary. Okay? So, Sifuna, you cannot come up here in front of the people, the country, and try to tell the Kenyans that, we shall be, our constitution is basically my manifesto. I want to create a society, an equitable society where social justice and all this wonderful, constitutionalism and human rights is something that we hold as sacrosanct and it's respected by all. You cannot convince us, because you've been knee deep into ODM, a political organization that I can argue is a terrorist organization that has been terrorizing the people of Nyanza for the past 20 years, and have always taken a part in joining the leadership, the administration of the day, to continue perpetuating this system of oppression in Kenya. So, Sifuna, for you to come and say, oh, now I'm running for president. Well, he didn't say that he's running for president, but he addressed that question in a way. But anyway, so for you to come out and say that, oh, sisi agenda yetu, our manifesto is based on the Constitution, it sounds nice, but hey, listen, buddy, you were there in the past, I don't know, 15 years where you've been in Senate, 5 years, whatever, no matter what, okay? However long you've been there. You've been actually part and parcel of this system, individual who make up the legislative body who has failed Kenyans. You've been part of a political party under the tutelage of Conman mwenyewe Tringenye, hayati mzee Raila Odinga, rest in peace. I hope your soul made it to heaven. But you've been part of his agenda. You've been under him and followed his footsteps when he was going to negotiate for a handshake with Ruto, and also when he negotiated a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, both of whom we know have really led this country to where it's at right now. And you've supported Raila Odinga to the T. So for you to come out and say, oh, now our agenda is to respect the Constitution, whatever, all this, it's preposterous. It's disingenuous. Okay? You're not cheating. You're not lying. You're not lying to anyone. You're not fooling anyone. Sifuna, senator, super senator, as they call you. With that, I don't believe you. Sorry, you need more people. I don't believe you. I'm not one of those people who are caught up in the hype of Sifuna and Babu Owino and all these people. I mean, look at the people on your entourage. Okay, like I say, I won't walk you through that, but I'm just saying that's the main thing that I picked up from this conversation. Okay, it's a wonderful idea to say that you don't need your manifesto is basically will be anchored on what the Constitution, the preamble of the Constitution, 2010 Constitution. It sounds wonderful, but I'm sorry, Sifuna, you've been in the thick of things, helping in this vicious cycle engine we call political class that have gutted down, brought us into an economic turmoil, into a culture of lawlessness, gross violation of our Constitution, impunity, all of that stuff. Okay? So for you to come and say, oh, now we are not believing you, Sifuna. Okay? Come up with something else. Not really come up with something. Okay. So let me take you deeper than the Sifuna stuff, what he just said. Okay, let me just give me an over. Usually, I want you to see the big picture as a listener of this channel. Thank you for being part of this channel and subscribing and liking the video. I always want to paint the bigger picture of what role Sifuna is playing, because it's not about him. Sifuna is just a happy-go-lucky. He knows he's being a puppet. His ventriloquist is probably sitting, straddling his, big stomach somewhere in Ishaweri or somewhere. I don't know. But Sifuna is enjoying the ride. People are, cheering him on. Tuende mimi ndio Sifuna, and he's enjoying the moment. Why not? Why not? Okay. So anyway, here's the bigger picture. When he was asked, Sifuna, are you going to join the opposition, join hands with the opposition to take out Ruto, basically, to defeat Ruto in 2027? And Sifuna basically said yes in a roundabout way by saying that he gave the example, not example, but the what do you call it? The parable, or the compared analogy of the hunting analogy that he always gives, where he says, if you're going to hunt angiri or whatever the case is, different people start from different parts. Just like the lioness, when if you see the lions, the lioness usually are the ones that goes hunting. When they go to hunt, wengine wanaanza na uko na nyuma na wengine wanaanza na mbele, and then they meet somewhere in the middle or whatever. They kind of want to attack the whatever they're hunting, right? Get the point? So basically, he was saying that he's happy that the opposition are doing whatever they're doing, and then he's doing whatever he's doing with Wakina Babu Owino on Orengo. Then they'll probably meet somewhere in the middle with the official opposition, with the Gachagua, Kalonzo, Matiangi. Then they shall defeat Ruto, right? So basically, that's what Sifuna was saying, all right? He didn't specify if he's going to actually run for president per se, but basically he's saying that he's willing to join hands with the Gachaguas and Kalonzo and Wamalwa and the rest of the guys, the official opposition, so to speak, to beat Ruto, okay? Because he made it clear that this time they don't want to defeat Ruto by only 100,000 votes or 200,000 votes. They want to defeat Ruto by millions of votes, okay? So that justifies him joining hands with the official opposition, Gachagua and the rest, okay? So that's what he said. That's what he said, okay? Not what I say. That's what he said. So here's the problem with this again. Let me paint the bigger picture here. Wacha nichukue kinywaji kidogo, So here's the bigger picture. Here's the bigger picture. Let me tell you something. When the official opposition came out and, they had their meetings, remember Kalonzo came out, made his runs, he went to the US, akarudi, Gachagua came to the US, came back. and they were Martha Karua kind of US Karudi. They were making their own rounds. Wamalwa, Eugene, everyone was taking turns. Gachagua was making his media runs. He was the flavor of the month. Then it was Kalonzo, the flavor of the month. Then Matiang'i also was the flavor of the month. Remember when he was in Baltimore? So they had their, but the problem is that the Kenyan people, the citizens of Kenya, the population, they're not buying this opposition. They don't seem to be warming up to this opposition, these members of opposition, okay, Matiang'i, Kalonzo, because we know these faces. These are the faces from 1960s, okay? The same guys who've been in KANU, they've been in NDP, Jubilee, TNA, UDA, the same Moi, minions that have been there ever since this nation came up, okay? And all of them are kind of, all of them compromise, same people who have been in this system. I mean, what is someone like Matiang'i shouldn't be addressing Kenyans on anything, preaching to anyone about democracy. I'm sorry. And this point, I kind of agree with Aaron Cheriot, who was talking smack today, but he's right. Matiang'i cannot tell anyone about social justice or constitutionalism or human rights, he is not that, because this guy has been involved in every kind of mess that we see in Kenya, okay? Corruption, bodies in Rivayala, name it, human rights violation, gross human rights violation, with Miguna. We know that, okay? So in short, what I'm trying to say is this. The official opposition were not cutting it. They were not cutting it. They were not attractive. They were not moving the needle. No one cared about them. Nobody saw them as a viable option to Ruto. Even Ruto don't even respect them, okay? He tells them, Nyinyi kill, basically, okay? Okay? They don't have the same gravitas, the same influence as Raila Odinga, okay? Raila Odinga was a conman, but he had the ground. Akinguruma, even though he was losing that ground quickly, but he still had significant ground that he could, make the president of the day kind of, agree to whatever his demands, okay? So what happened is this. So what has happened is this, okay? What this political class, they understand that Ruto is the bad guy. Remember, the president of the day, Ruto, is the bad guy because of their what? Economic situation on the ground, okay? And he reneged on all his promises. So he's looked at as the problem, right? So what is the alternative? Working at Matiang'i. And like I said, the political class tried to shine light on Kalonzo, Matiang'i, Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, all of them. And they were not cutting it. Even if they come together, they don't move, and no one is excited about them. No one really cares about them. No one really wants, even Gachagua. No one really wants to, because Gachagua, like I say, he messed up in that part when he's too tribalistic, okay? He's too much he's a parochial dunderhead, okay? Lunatic, basically, okay? An adjudicated lunatic, okay? So what they did is this. This is what the political class are attempting to do. So since they've realized that Wakina Kalonzo, Karua, Gachagua, Matiang'i are not really moving the needle, they're not attractive, no one cares about them. So they looked at the demography. The people who are really active politically in Kenya is the youth. And they looked at the people who are actively on the ground during that June 25th, 2024, that Occupy Parliament movement. It was the Gen Zs. They are the heartbeat of politics. They are the young, vibrant, very, very emotional, politically involved. When they get agitated, they're they're the engine of the society, okay? Because these are the creative guys. These are the guys that have energy. These are the guys who have the innovative spirit. They want to do stuff, okay? And when they decided and came together to occupy Parliament, you saw what happened. Even the army could not stop it. Okay. Thing is dying. So what I was saying is this before I lost the Nino Kidogo. So what the political class are attempting to do with the Sifuna and Babu Owino is to try to harvest that vote, that support from the Gen Zs, because they realize that Gen Zs, who are basically the threat, the engine. Remember, there are two forces that actually affected the ground in Kenya, the political foot soldiers on the ground who actually made things happen. It was Raila Odinga through his psychopathic following, okay? Okay? His cultic nature, influence on his supporters, okay? But now, and number two, it was the Gen Zs who proved to Raila and Kenya in general that they can do it without the Raila Odinga and his supporters, okay? So these are the two variables that the Kenyan political class are worried about. But now that Raila Odinga has, passed on, there's no one who has the same influence as him as far as an individual level, okay? So the only other group of people, it's not a person, but a people who can organize and agonize to bring change are the Gen Zs, as we saw in June 25th, 2024, Occupy Parliament, which was a success. So the Gen Zs are the only variable that can actually hit the ground and affect change by a popular revolution. Raila was one through his supporters, but Raila never really wanted a revolution. He wanted to negotiate, he wanted power, to quote Oburu, his brother, okay? So he got into these handshakes, but now Raila is gone. So the only variable that is left that is actually a threat to the Kenyan corrupt oligarchy is the Gen Zs. So the oligarchs, corrupt oligarchs of Kenya, political class as we call them, they try to convince these Gen Zs by bringing in Kalonzo, Matiangi, Karua, Natembea, Wamalwa, and all these useful idiots that have been in power since 1980s, late 80s, okay? But they are not moving anyone. The Gen Zs are not boarding, so to speak, to quote Miguna. The Gen Zs are not boarding. So what do? So they use this ODM drama, choreographed drama, to prop up Babu Owino and Sifuna and Orengo. Who some people view him as a progressive, but he's not. He's definitely a corrupt, a lawyer / governor, okay? CIA Impress account manipulator. That's what I call him. But anyway, so they prop up Sifuna because they know Babu Owino has he's a package. He's a package, kabisa. We know about DJ Volve and all those Kuvutabangi and all that nonsense, okay? So he's not really the ideal candidate to bring around Wakina, to bring around the Gen Zs, because Gen Zs, these are guys who wameamka. They're not your average Joe, okay? They know what's happening. They know about Babu Owino. So that's why you see, if you go to the Twitter account, if you want to really see what the Gen Zs are saying, go to the Twitter X account. They mention about Babu Owino's, past, his violent past, his drug use and all that stuff. So Babu Owino is not really the ideal guy to stand up for them because of that. So Sifuna, who is another, relatively speaking, is young and hasn't been caught up in any kind of major scandal as far as corruption is concerned, ideologically he's empty, bankrupt, but he's a heckler, he's a noisemaker, okay? And Kenyans we like hecklers, because as long as you shout Ruto must go, people love you, they gravitate towards that, especially if you're viewed to be a young guy and That's why I usually say we are forgetting where Sifuna stood when Gen Zs were opposing Ruto, when they were organizing Occupy State House. Sifuna was busy with Raila Odinga trying to negotiate for power. Okay, while Gen Z, even what after Gen Z wakaanza kumwingilia akamwambia wewe Sifuna namna gani, you've let us down. Okay, again, why is he not? But anyway, the point is, so Sifuna is being propped up to lure the Gen Z support. Okay, that's why you see wametupa wakina Pauline Njoroge hapo, wakina these so-called young activists to rally around Sifuna, okay, and use the media that the oligarchs actually control to try to prop up Sifuna as the face of Gen Zs, okay, because the idea is to totally pacify the anger and the discontent of the Gen Zs, keeping them away from kwenda maandamano, an organic grassroots maandamano that can actually be a revolution. Okay, so in order to pacify them, you bring about somebody like Sifuna, and they use this nonsense that is happening in ODM by positioning Sifuna as the guy who has the spirit of Raila, a rebel. Okay, someone who stood up for something, who is now challenging the what? The old Oburu Odinga, old guard of ODM. Okay, he's being presented as this young progressive, okay, that hasn't been mired by any scandal. Okay, so he's the guy. They want to use him, and they're propping him up to be the face of the Gen Zs. Because like I said, the two most influential variables was Raila Odinga and his supporters and the Gen Zs. But Raila Odinga is gone. So how do you harvest that support? Yeah, Gen Zs. You prop up Sifuna. They could not go outside of the pool of politicians that already exist because it's a huge risk. They tried with Makoure, but Makoure ni kizungu mingi, but he does not have a track record, and him joining Raila Odinga, while people looked at him as one of the voices of the Gen Zs, messed up his political journey. I'm not saying it's the end of it. He might prop up later on in life, but for now, he's not the guy. They tried to prop up Morara, the same thing. We quickly found out this guy is an NIS guy. He's full of it. He's too young. He's immature, emotionally, unstable. Okay, and it didn't work. The Gen Zs did not buy into him. Okay, and he doesn't have a record to show that he's fit to run for anything. Watch out, presidency. Okay, so they had to look for a solution within the political system itself. Find someone who does not seem to be corrupt, is knowledgeable, he's in the system, he understands the game. Compromise, nevertheless. Compromise. Okay? Sifuna is compromised. Let me tell you this. I'll tell you this one for free. Siwadangani is already compromised. The deals are made in the Nyuma tent, not Mbele tent. But anyway, so Sifuna was the guy. He fits the bill. Young, a lawyer, was a Raila Odinga student, okay? Or now we can call him an orphan. Politically, he has been there for a minute, okay? He's been heckling the Ruto administration since Ruto came to power. So, so he fits the bill. So when he says Ruto must go, that's why you see Sifuna keeps on, agenda yake ni Ruto must go without even having a proper ideological stance, okay? Now, he's been clever, probably from listening to some of us, by saying that, our manifesto is basically the constitution, the preamble, which is fine, but he's not ideologically, he doesn't have a stance. He's not clear in his vision. Okay? So, but the fact that he's young and he's a heckler, he's loud, has a deep voice when he says Ruto must go, and debates all those, debates our pinheads who attend morning shows, wakina, I don't know what, wakina Erion Cheriot and others, okay? So people see him, anafinya, ana tackle, or whatever the case. They see him as a good debater, but he's really not anybody can be a good debater when you're debating anybody for the administration of Ruto. But anyway, so Sifuna and Babu Owino and that faction of ODM that is opposed to Oburu are being promoted, and they are working with the opposition, the united opposition, so to speak. That way, Gachagua is playing the old system, is using the old methods of getting voters by using the tribal ethnicity to galvanize different votes from different communities, okay? While Sifuna appeals to the Gen Zs, okay? Then at last watakuja washikane waseme, okay, tumekaa chini and we've come up with how we are going to form government of 2027 after Ruto comes out, okay? You see what I'm saying? But the whole point being, the problem is this now, and this is where I want to talk to Ruto for a minute. I've been here for Ninio. So this is where I want to talk to not Ruto but Sifuna, okay? Because I heard Kalonzo also say something that I agree with, but they seem to be missing the point, both Kalonzo and Sifuna. Kalonzo came out, I think, I don't know if it was his brother's funeral or the day before he went to his brother's funeral. Kalonzo said that Kenya needs a revolution. Kenya needs a revolution, okay? And he's right. The problem with Kalonzo and Sifuna and the united opposition is that hawajui kuwa wako kwa menu. Sifuna, you are on the menu. Kalonzo, you are in the menu. What do I mean they are in the menu? When we talk about a revolution in Kenya, a total overhaul of the current system, corrupt system in Kenya, what really we are talking about is a total overhaul of these corrupt individuals that have played a pivotal part in destroying this wonderful country we call Kenya. So, Kalonzo, we know your history. You've been a vice president, you've been a minister of foreign affairs, you've been a CS of I don't know what, you've been a presidential candidate, you've been NADCO, you've been... Sifuna, you've been the secretary of ODM. You've supported a party that have continuously, not even once, not twice, continuously betrayed Kenyan people. Okay? By pretending that mtapigania wale watu ambao waliuliwa, by pretending sijui ati you're fighting for the plight of Kenyans, but at the end, you end up with those very people who are actually oppressing us and are violating us through violence and everything else. Okay? So when we talk about a revolution, Sifuna, hata wewe utaenda. When we talk a revolution, Kalonzo, hata wewe pia utaenda. Mutanyongwa nyote. Nobody will be spared. See ati nyinyi, because when we say a total overhaul, we mean all of you, including you, united opposition, including you, Babu Owino, including you, Sifuna. Nyote, mutanyongwa nyote. Nyote. Not ati sijui nini. That is what you fail to understand. Why? You ask why, Sifuna? Because you've been part of the current corrupt system. Gachagua, Martha Karua, eh? Gideon Moi, Kenyatta, eh? Atwoli, nyote, anybody occupying a public office, anybody in Kenya, mutanyongwa, revolution ikikuja. You'll not be spared, Sifuna, because you are saying unasema one time. No. You had the opportunity. Ulikuwa na opportunity yako kusimamia wananchi. But wewe, when the Gen Z were telling Raila Odinga, do not enter into a handshake with Ruto, tuachie hii revolution, tutoe Ruto, ulishikana na Raila, mkaenda mkanegotiate huko. Sasa mambo vile ilikuwa kali, ukaanza kujifanya ati sasa, you don't agree with it. Lakini hutaki kutoka ODM, lakini hutaki kutoka kuacha SG position. That is what I'm saying, Sifuna. So Sifuna, endelea na usarakasi wako na hii game mnacheza. And it brings me back to the second point. I think I talked about Gachagua. Gachagua's role is to do what? To galvanize these communities that are entertaining his nonsense. He's playing the old trick. Yeah, nyinyi mtapata shares hivi. You know, Moi started that. Not even, was it Moi? I think Kenyatta is the one who started that. Jomo. Yeah? He's the president. So the people, the communities that are supporting his presidency, they will enjoy the benefits of being in government. Wanapewa vitu hapo. Eh? Moi did the same thing. This community, how ndio watapewa development? Kwa sababu they're supporting what? His presidency. So Gachagua is playing the old system of politics, of shares. Anaenda haya, nyinyi wa Somali, I'm talking to the Kalenjin here. Even the young lady asked him in his last interview, ask him, wait, can't you have a national outlook? If you're the wealth of the nation should be shared equally to every community, and every part of Kenya should be able to enjoy the resources that the country have. It shouldn't be that, the president decides who gets maendeleo and who does not get maendeleo, who gets healthcare and who does not get healthcare, which community is hired to be part of the executive branch and which one is supposed to be ignored. That's not how things are done. But he's playing that. That is his role. That's why you see Gachagua never fails to make it all about Mount Kenya. And when he moves to another nyinyi watu wa Western. Nyinyi watu wa... But he understands that that kind of politics is not accepted everywhere. That's why you'll never see Gachagua in Kisumu saying, Wajaluo nyinyi hata nyinyi, niko hapa na walo, tutajaribu kumweka kwa serikali, ndio nyinyi mupate share yenu ya kupigania the next government. Tukiingia ile government mtapata this share. You understand? It's a very old discriminatory way of conducting politics. It's outdated. But that's his role in all this. Okay? So, on one hand, Gachagua plays the old-fashioned ways of politics, conducting politics. Sifuna plays to the Gen Zs, the new incoming way of doing politics, where these young folks are saying the system is flawed, we need to overhaul the whole system. But Sifuna is used to pacify the Gen Zs from that thought of revolution. He wants to move them to this idea that, hey, we are the young people. Trust me, when I come to become president, I guarantee hakuna mtu ambaye atauliwa, watoto wetu hawatauliwa, hamtauliwa. You see what I'm saying? Because he's talking about something that Gen Z were asking. Because Gen Zs were really up to what they were saying. They were, tuliuliwa, where's the compensation? But Sifuna is being brought. You notice one thing. Sifuna never talks about... He never talks about overhaul of the whole system. Because he knows if it is about revolutionizing the system, he is also going to be removed from the scene. So his role, which is part of this Gachagua, Kalonzo, Karua, United Opposition nonsense, his role with Babu Owino is to play to the ninio of the Gen Zs. Oh, vijana wapate kazi. It's not about development. Development hiyo ni ya Ruto. Ruto ndio anakimbia anasema hapo development. But you don't have jobs. Si vijana mnataka jobs? Okay. Mimi, I'm all about jobs. I'm all about the human resources. I'm all about justice. I'm all about the constitution. You understand? To play into the new ways where Kenya is heading, the progressive way of conducting politics. Okay? Then they shall merge together in the name of removing Ruto. Okay? In the name of what? Because what they're trying to convince you is that the problem, the Kenyan problem, solely, squarely sits on Ruto's head. Ruto is the cause of all our problems. That's what they are convincing you. That is, but anyone who has ears and is intelligent enough knows that the problem is not just Ruto alone. It is people before him, okay? All the presidents before him, and a lot of individuals who are still prominent in not only active politics, holding public positions, public offices, but also business people and all that stuff. Influential folks, current politicians, cabinet ministers, parochial leaders, okay? Even Sifuna himself is part of the problem. You understand? So that is what I'm saying. That's why Sifuna cannot talk about a revolution. If you ask him about revolution, that's a very, itakuwa violence and it will be so bloody and people will die. Yes. Revolution is not something that... The reason why revolutions are always bloody is because the people in power do not want to give up power, so they will do anything to stay on it. Okay? That's the reason why. There's some peaceful revolution that has happened. Okay? There have been peaceful revolution before, where Nani anakimbia tu, Traore. It wasn't that peaceful, but it was coup d'etat. Aliwambia toka. Alafu how the French started hiring, but that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is that Sifuna will always play into Gen Z's ninio. So now, I want to come to Miguna very quickly. Miguna on Pressure Point very quickly. He had this talk in Pressure Point. I caught it in the middle. I didn't see the whole thing. So, but I listened in a little bit, and Miguna and I kind of see eye to eye with him. I agree with most of the things that he does and says, and he stands for. Okay. What I realized, there's one thing that I disagreed with him. Well, he was saying, of course he's running for president. I understand it. I understand where he's coming from. So I'm not really hard on him on that, but I kind of still disagree. Okay. He said, we should organize for a possible future revolution. But at the same time, he was saying it is also a democratic right to go, Paul Don Kim, life is lifing. But at the same time, he's saying, and then mkachukue kura so that you can go vote. But he understands that the system, the electoral system, or the system in place in which constitutionally we are supposed to use to pick our next leaders is compromised. So to me, that is where I kind of disagree with him. You cannot be advocating for two things at the same time. I mean, you can, but to me, I don't think it's acceptable. It's either you campaign for a revolution or you decide, okay, mi nataka work within the system that's in place. You understand? I'll repeat it one more time, and I'll be very brief. I have probably a few minutes in. In my view, it's either you operate totally outside the system rather than operating inside the system. What do I mean? You cannot say that, oh, and then mkachukue kura so that we can vote Ruto out, knowing very well that Ruto has already compromised the electoral system. Okay? I would rather have you spend your energy, since you are influential enough, to campaign for a revolution. It is ripe. People are out there. Every day on X, you see people talk about we need to get rid of this yesteryear legacy politicians. Not so many ones they're saying that they want a total overhaul of the system, current system in place, which is basically a revolution. Right? So, if you start saying that, okay, I'm running for president, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can do that. If you want to run for president, fine. It's your democratic right to do so. And telling people to go vote, while the system is, I don't know what you're trying to achieve. Because basically, and I understand, he has said it before that, even if he doesn't win, people shall see the distinction between the Ruto regime and how, he would like to run the country, or he will expose. It will provide a platform for him to actually expose what's wrong with the country. Okay, which is fine. Like I say, I disagree. To me, if you understand that the whole system is rotten, it's a systemic problem, you don't try to be in the system in order to change it from inside, because it won't happen. They will suck you in and suffocate you while you're in there. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I felt that when he was asked, hey, Miguna, how come you are saying, all this stuff, but, you voted for Kibaki, you supported for Ruto. And he had a good explanation. He explained very well that, hey, listen, I felt like at the time with Uhuru Kenyatta, I had fallen out with Raila, so I wanted to vote for Uhuru so that Raila could be defeated. And then in the times of why he voted for Ruto, and my thing is dying, let me finish this very quickly. He says, Raila and Uhuru, they forcefully exiled me to, whatever, outside the country. So to me, I don't know if who reached over to who. Ruto reached out to him, or he reached out to Ruto. I don't know how it happened, but Ruto promised to bring him back to Kenya, and Ruto promised him that he will follow the constitution or do all those things that he was promising Kenyans, which is fine. I understand. When you are forcefully exiled from your own country, you'll try anything to go back. I understand that. Okay, given that situation. But here's the thing, though. This is why it's an issue. May not be a big issue, but it's an issue there. And we cannot run away from that. We have to face things head on. Okay? So here's the thing, Miguna. Okay? You knew, let me start with Uhuru Kenyatta, because I might cut your slack with Ruto. Because like I said, I understand, while you are forcefully exiled by Uhuru Kenyatta, you missed home. Most of your relatives were, you lost a lot of relatives and you could not, go to their funeral. I understand that. I get it. So you missed home. You wanted, to get things back home and all that stuff, right? But the thing is, you knew who these people are, as you told the crowd there who are listening. You understand who Uhuru Kenyatta was. These two were ICC inductees who were accused of committing the most heinous crimes against humanity. Okay? They are not to be trusted. They are corrupt to the core. So for you to argue that, oh, I voted for Uhuru Kenyatta so that I can defeat Raila Odinga, who had betrayed me and fired me, unjustifiably, it shows, it projects a message of, you know what? When things get tough for me as Miguna, I am willing to vote for the devil for my own survival or for my own personal revenge or gain or whatever the case is. Because you knew Uhuru was who he is. Okay? The worst president ever in the history of humanity. Okay? I don't think Ruto has reached that level yet, but he's getting there. Okay? The worst president. Okay? But you voted for him just to get back to Raila. See what I'm saying? If you don't say, failure to vote, if you refuse to vote, absconding from sitting out from voting is a form of protest. If you say, you know what, I decide I will not vote this coming elections because I see no one who is worth my vote, and it's a form of protest, it is understandable. But to vote, say that I supported Kenyatta, who was known to be, maimed a lot of people, killed a lot of people. Him along with Ruto, remember, they were coming in as a package. But you did that just to get back to Raila Odinga. I'm not buying that argument. I'm not boarding Miguna. I'm not boarding. And so he was defending himself and he was saying, oh, when Raila does it, it's okay. But when Miguna does it, everyone is causing a brouhaha. Oh, Miguna is doing this. The point you're missing is this. We hold you to a higher standard, Miguna. You are not in the level Raila Odinga. We don't see you as a corrupt leader. We see you as the future leader who is not corrupt. So, with all that said, I appreciated his honesty because he did not run away from the issue. He said it like it was. It was his personal decision, which it is democratically. It's his right to vote for whoever he chooses to, even if it's Uhuru or Ruto. And he was honest about it. He did not try to run away and pretend that, oh, I did not do this, I was... No. He was honest about it. Took accountability, which is a sign of a good leader. It's a sign of leadership. Not a sign of good leader, but a sign of leadership. When you mess up, you explain what happened. You take accountability. You explain to the people how and why you did things. So it's not a big issue. It does not put a dent on your so-called revolutionary credentials. It does not in any way. It's just that, that's and that even though you've been upfront with it, it's just like happily not. But it's okay because you're human. So we appreciate that. As for Gachagua, like I said, I've lumped it in with Sifuna. In summation, what I want to say is this. Okay? Like the video, share, comments, subscribe, and all that. But let me sum up by saying this. Sifuna is not the answer. What we need to do right now is to do what we did before June 25th, which was, the issue was one. Nobody was saying, listen to me, I want to take you back. Kenyans, you do things right, then you forgot what works, and you go back to the tricks that, Kina Sifuna and Gachagua and the Neo try to take you away from what works. Leading up to June 25th, okay, nobody was saying, to go 2027, or let's impeach or recall these MPs. Let's recall these MPs that voted for the bill, finance bill. Because the finance bill was the catalyst for the whole June 25th Occupy Parliament, right? You have to remember what works. You have to remember what works. What works is this. The message was very simple and clear. The parliamentarians have refused to respect the will of the people by voting for a finance bill that we reject. So the people are going to take back power as per the first article of the Constitution, which says the people can express and exercise their power directly. So they went to the parliamentary building and occupied it. The message was, let's go occupy Parliament. No one was saying, oh, dude, let's not go occupy Parliament. Let's just try to recall these MPs, recall these senators. No. The message was simple. Occupy Parliament. That's why I want to bring you back to 2027. You cannot entertain the nonsensical Linda Wananchi, Linda Ground dichotomy. It's a bunch of destruction. You cannot entertain anything like, oh, Chukweni Kura, let's go vote, because we understand and know that Ruto controls the electoral process, including the IBC, the institution that's supposed to be conducting the electoral process. It's constitutionally mandated. Ruto wants to control it. Marjana alikimbia akasema, I don't want my hands in this thing. Sitaki kufa kama kivui twende. Nani? I forgot the other guy who just left us. Yeah? So, let's not have mixed messages that is due to Kura. You ballot revolution. There's no revolution that takes us through the ballot. The message should be one. Revolution ni lazima. Revolution now. That is the campaign. Sifuna kileta ile ujinga yake sijui wananchi, sijui linda wananchi, tunamwambia ni revolution. Tunaenda kutoa Ruto na tunaenda kuwatoa nyote as the opposition, na nyinyi ambao mmekaa kwa hiyo kiti yenu ya senator na governor na MCA na hiyo mambo mengine, nyote mnatoka. Revolution now. That is the message. Si ati tunataka tukue kura, sijui running for sijui nini. Ati women rep. No. Revolution now. The messaging was quite clear. Unless you want to wait. Because najua mnataka kungoja muone vile Ruto ataread alafu akalie kiti. Then when you start protesting at that time, you will start unleashing vita waua. At then you revolution. Okay, postpone it if you want. That's fine. It's your choice. But you have to be on one page, because it is coming to the one thing that is inevitable. Tumefika pale Kenya haiwezi endelea kwa sababu wameuza Kenya na wanakula hiyo pesa na wanawatukana na wanawatapikia. And voting will not do it. Sudi aliwaambia tunaenda kujaza kura. We are going to rig this thing whether you like it or not. Ruto ni lazima. What are you still waiting for? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends and comrades, thank you so much for watching. My name is Kenya Revolutionary. Thank you, Don Kim, Omuganda, and all of you that have been watching, and all of you who are going to watch on repeat. Like, share, subscribe, comment, put the notification button on so every time I come in live, you'll be notified that I'm live, so you can take part in this on the chat and everywhere else. I'm Anam Nagani. Peace and blessings. I'll see you guys later. I'm out.